Hi, I'm Alan with Wicked Pecker Off-Road. Today we're going to have an installation video for our Pro R heater kit. First off, we're going to talk a little bit about the kit. We have a shroud that fits on the back of the radiator to pull air through the radiator instead of using a separate heater core. That way there's no penetrations into your coolant lines. And you don't have to worry about coolant leaks or purging air bubbles out. It's simply pulling air through the radiator that already is hot and putting it through a marine grade blower motor and distributing it through these hoses into the vents inside. And we're going to go through the installation on this kit. So we have the shroud, we have 180 CFM 3.4 amp max draw blower motor. Marine grade, it's the same blower motor we use in our Can-Am X3 heater kits. Then it goes to a distribution block that goes onto the motor, has rubber seals in here. You don't need to clamp anything. Pushes on nice and snug. Then it goes to some PVC, fairly rigid, not hard, but flexible, but yet rigid tubing made out of PVC, goes through that, bends around, goes through the firewall, down through the console into the two heater ducts. On the ends of the heater assembly, we have our vents that rotate 360 degrees, open and close. We have a 3D printed elbow that goes right into the end of the hose and goes to that. There's no hose clamps needed. As the heater kit heats up for the first few times, this being PVC and flexible will kind of soften slightly, and it creates a clamp down on this that's really hard to get off. The same way with this, a little bit of dust gets in there or something, and that once it's pushed in, you have to really work on it to get it out. But yeah, a few heat cycles and this stuff almost welds itself together. It can be removed, but no need for clamps. So first off, after the explanation on that, we're going to talk about the different parts that need to come off the machine to begin your installation and little tips and tricks to go through those. So first off, we're going to start on the inside of the machine. You're going to want to remove the two seats out of there. Easy, pop the latch, pull it out. The second thing you're going to want to remove is the side panels on either side of the console. There's a ton of YouTube videos on this. I'm not going to go through every little bolt, but pretty self-explanatory, other than there's two plastic clips that go, push pins that go into the top here on both the left and the right side. And you can't really see them. You have to feel around up in there and get to them. The rest is just some bolts that come out, and then you flex the panel around and pop it out. So you have to pull off both sides. When you pull off the passenger side, there is a clamp down inside that gets to the snorkel that goes down to the belt box. There's two hose clamps on that. Typically they're on the passenger side or the right side of the machine. Pull off that side panel, you can get to them, loosen both of those up, and then you can pull the snorkel out of the front in a later step. But you want to loosen both of those up. And then during assembly, we're going to take that little rubber boot with the two hose clamps and we're going to spin it around so the hose clamps tighten from the driver's side if it's not already that way. I've seen a few that way. But the installation is going to go in the passenger side or right side panel first. The hoses are going to be routed down through there. And then the last thing on the inside that'll go in, other than the seats, is this driver's side panel with the vent installed in it. And so once you put that in, you need the passenger side already in place. So when you get these panels out, one of the first things you'll do is drill a pilot hole first. You can obviously see there's nothing on the back side of the panel. Drill you a pilot hole, put a 2 1/4, I use 2 3/8 just to make it easier, but 2 1/4 hole saw is a lot easier to get to. You want to come directly off this point, 2 inches up to the center hole. Drill your little pilot hole, and then pop a 2 3/8 or 2 1/4 if you so choose. Hole saw through there. then the heater vent will just screw onto that. You'll do that exactly the same spot on the left and right side panels. So the heater vent screws apart. This is the inside piece. That's the outside piece. Sandwich the panel in there, screw that down, hold the back, torque that down, and it's good to go. So once you have the heater ducts installed 2 inches from this outside point to the center, that's pretty important. You can be off by 1/2 inch, so it's not exact, but there's limited room inside this machine, so you have to be fairly close with your measurements. Next, we're going to go inside the machine and show you where you have to pull out the panels and drill the holes and route the hoses. So inside the vehicle, once you get the driver's side panel out and the passenger side panel out, you're going to take the passenger side panel, you're going to drill 4 hole saws through it with a 2-inch hole saw for the hose routing. So you can do that out of the machine. You pull that side panel out. Right now it's installed in the machine because the hoses are already routed through it. But they're going to be right inside of here. This is part of the side panel piece. You're going to drill 2 holes there for the hose, 2 holes here for the hose. Another tip, when you're pulling the side panel out on the driver's side, you have a fuse box right here. There's 2 10mm headed bolts to pull that out so you can get to those 2 plastic push pins in the top of the side panel. Little tip there. So once you drill the holes out through that for the hoses to pass through, you're going to go to the front of the machine and do a little bit of disassembly there. So here at the front of the machine, we're going to show you what needs to be taken off. I've disassembled this machine a little bit more because there's other things we're going to do to it, but I'll let you know what you need to take off. So first is the centermost hood scoop that has the air intake for the belt box. That's coming off first. You're going to take your front painted fenders off. I've taken the inner fenders off, which you don't need to do for the heater kit. There is a felt lined looking cover plate that goes right across here. You'll just take some of the 40 Torx out of it, and then the clips pop off. Same with the fenders. Most everything is either a 40 Torx bit or a plastic push pin. Pretty self-explanatory on those. So you pull both fenders off, pull that front panel off that's sandwiched by the fenders and in the hood scoop first. Then you're going to get in here and take off the snorkel that goes down to the belt box. This is that little piece that I told you from the passenger side. There's a hard plastic pipe that goes from the front to the back underneath through the shifter tunnel for the intake for the belt box. This is the little plastic connection piece that goes from the snorkel down to that piece. There's 2 hose clamps on it. It's usually positioned like this with the bolts going up towards the passenger seat. You're going to loosen up both those and pull the snorkel out the front, and then you're going to take this piece off and flip it around to where the hose clamps come in from the driver's side, so it's easier to get to it as you're installing the heater kit. This is symmetrical. It doesn't matter which way it goes, but you can get to the hose clamps afterward. So you're going to pull that out, pull the snorkel out of here, which we have all the parts laying over here on the floor. I'll show you a little later. Then you're going to start with your install on the shroud that goes in the radiator. So we're going to start here on the front with the shroud with the installation. So the shroud fits on the back of the radiator, fits right inside of the cooling fan fins, if not the cooling fins, but the structure for the fan. Fits in there snug. The hose connection comes out and points towards the passenger side. So the way you attach it is with zip ties, and there is 4 provisions here for 4 zip ties. You'll start out putting them through the inside hole from the front. Well, I guess it's technically the back of the shroud. You're going to go in there, put this roughly in the position, wrap this around one of the support structures for the cooling fan. You'll know exactly where it is. I can't show you in this because it already has a heater kit installed, but you're gonna push that back through, bring it back up so you'll have that support structure sandwiched inside of this loop. Then you can bring it up, start the zip tie, leave it loose, do the other 3 zip ties the same way. With all of them installed and loose, then you can start tightening them down. Once you pull them down tight, you'll have the top of the zip tie there. You can cut off the excess. It'll be pulled down about like that. Clip off the excess, and this thing's in there nice and solid. It won't hit the fan. There's a good 1/2 inch of clearance in there, so you won't worry about bumping the zip tie. But that blocks off some of the air and directs where it's pulling the air through to get the air to come right through the radiator. You don't want to pull in all the outside cooler air. It's still right around the radiator, so it's pretty warm, but you want to get as much of that hot air as we can. So you'll install all those zip ties extremely loose so you can get your hands in there to put it around the structure. Once you get all 4, tighten them down, and we're ready to go on to the next step. So once your fan shroud is mounted in there, next we have the blower motor. This is the 180 CFM 3.4 amp max draw blower motor. You'll hook it up to a 10 amp fuse is plenty. You can put it right to your, when you're finished wiring, you can go right up under here to your post that's made for that, key on power. You don't want to wire it straight to the battery. So there's a little rubber seal that I put on the blower motors on the front and the back. There's a directional arrow on the blower motor. You'll want that going away from the fan shroud. You put this in here, it's a snug fit, and then it'll go up and seal on this rubber ring. So it's a nice tight press. Everything's tight on there, no air leaks, no need for a clamp. So this shroud is in there, already mounted. You're gonna come through the side over here, feed the blower motor in, push it into that. Once you have it in there, you will take one of the large zip ties, wrap it around this big tubular upper frame, loop it around the bottom of the blower motor, put it around that tube, and tighten it. Don't tighten it super tight. I mean, this is a 175-pound zip tie. You need about 1 pound of force on it, just so when you're bouncing around the trail, you're not putting any stress on the parts. So you're just hanging this there. You're not pulling it up tight. Just hanging it for any of the bouncing forces. So once you have that on there, we have the next piece that goes on. It also has one of the rubber seals on there. This will slide onto the blower motor, push over that rubber seal, so it fits on there very, very tight. Again, no need for any clamps. That'll position with the holes up and down. I mean, it can be adjusted. You can spin it around, but it's going to stay in place. However you want it, you can position these legs wherever you want. So it's going to be positioned though with this up and down, pointing towards the passenger side. Once you have that installed, then we're going to go to the installation of the hoses themselves. So next we have to put a couple holes through the firewall for the hoses to go through. You can do that before you install the blower motor or at this point. Maybe a little bit easier to drill them at the beginning so the blower motor's not in the way for your drill, depending on what kind you have, so you have room for it. But you're going to come in here with the same 2-inch hole saw. You're going to drill a pilot hole, very important for this one. Don't just stick the hole saw through there, because there is a wiring harness behind the firewall that you need to make sure you're not going to hit. Some of this is a lot easier with 2 people. It can be installed with 1 person. I did the entire prototyping process by myself. When you're feeding the hoses through is the most important part to do with another person, because it is a tight fit. You don't want a lot of gaps. I mean, you could use the 2 1/4, 2 3/8, but you'll have a gap around the hoses. Make it really easy to slip them through, but I try to keep it sealed up as good as possible so you don't have any water or mud coming through there. Anyway, you're going to come in here, drill 2 holes through the firewall with your 2-inch hole saw. They're going to be right next to each other where the holes are almost touching. There is 2 rubber grommets that go through the firewall with wiring harnesses in them. It's going to be between those 2, right directly in the center of the tunnel. So if you drew a center line down through the tunnel that goes back, one hole would be on one side and the other one would be directly on the other. They can be off, again, 1/2 inch in any direction. It's not going to hurt anything. But it is just below, about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch below the center line of those 2 grommets, one on either side, and center line of the tunnel that goes through for the belt box. So you'll pop those in if you want to get a close-up of those. So the center tunnel, about the center line right here, one on one side of the center line, one on the other. 2-inch hole saws, just below, about 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch below the center line of the rubber grommet. So here's the center line of this, there's the center line of the rubber grommet. You want to drill a pilot hole through the center, have someone go on the inside or you yourself go on the inside, and make sure when the hole saw comes through, you're not going to hit the wiring harness. You should be fine, but from the factory, they can route them just slightly different, and you don't want to nick a hose or a wiring harness in this case. So you pop those 2 holes through. Then we'll go to installing the hoses themselves. So the heater vents you already have installed in your left and right side panel. You're going to install the passenger side panel that has the heater vent already installed in it and the holes, the 2-inch holes already drilled through for the hoses that I showed you earlier. So the next thing you're going to do with this in there, you're going to take the 90-degree elbow and you're going to slip it over top of this hose, push it on there to where it goes all the way down, nice and tight fits, not going to go anywhere. So that's going to be on your side panel in there. Then this is where it's really nice to have an extra hand, because this hose is 5.5 feet long. You're going to feed the passenger side hose through. You're going to have one person pushing it through the firewall here, the person on the inside guiding it down to the first hole, and it should be on the passenger side of the wiring harness that goes down through there. Wherever it'll fit around. Again, the hose is flexible. It can go around a wiring harness or something. One person's feeding it through. It's going to go through and take a 45-degree angle or so down. You'll feed it in as they're guiding it. They're going to guide it into the passenger side hole saw that you went through the passenger side panel with, down through that cubby and out the hole for the back of it and onto this for the passenger side vent. So then you're going to have all the passenger side that goes through. It's going to go from the vent, it's going to go down through that cubby and up the front of the firewall and out of the firewall. There's an extra 6 inches to a foot of hose on here you're going to end up trimming off in the end. So you want to get that hose put through. Then you're going to grab your second hose. Your vent is going to be on the right side of the driver's side panel that isn't installed yet. So you're not putting the elbow on there yet. You're going to feed the hose through the driver's side. Do the same thing, same process, except it'll probably be on the driver's side of the wiring harness. You're going to feed it down through, have somebody guide it down through the driver's side of the cubby, out of the back of the cubby, and back to a 90-degree splitter. So then you're going to install the splitter on the end of the hose there. The vent is already installed in the driver's side foot panel. So as you install the foot panel back in, this is going to slide in there. These two hoses are going to end up tight in there right against each other where they come together, because the width of this is the same as the width of the installed side panels. So there's no way they can come off once all the side panels are bolted in. But that's the configuration down to the back of it you're going to have. Once you get that, you can reinstall the driver side panel. Again, you will line up, it'll line right up the, well, you might have to pull or push on this hose a little bit to get it directly in line with this one. But it'll line up this in the panel, and it'll slip in there. When you bolt it in, it'll be nice and tight. So now we have the two hoses coming out through the firewall in the front, right next to each other. You're going to flex them over, feed one on top of the other, doesn't matter which one goes to where, and you're going to feed them behind this bar here, because remember, we still have that snorkel pipe that goes down through the front. It sits out a couple inches from the firewall, right where these hoses are going to go. So they're going to feed out behind this tube on the passenger side, curve around, and hook into the distribution block here. So they're going to feed in behind that. Don't cut them to length yet. Feed them in behind, bend them around, figure out where they lay nicely, and then this is already installed in there. You're going to hold it up next to it and go, okay, they fit around nicely there. We'll go ahead, mark it there, and cut off this hose. Once you cut off the bottom hose, which is the passenger side, the way I have it routed, again, they don't care if they're on the top or the bottom. You can cut that off, push it on there. It pushes on fairly nice. If you need a little help getting it up there, because tight quarters, a little squirt of Windex helps wonders to make them slip on there. Once it dries, there's no residue really left. There's no oily residue left to mess up the hoses. So that's going to be sitting on there. Then you're going to wrap the second one around, do the same thing, line it up, see where the hose lays correctly, and then you're going to mark it, and you're going to cut this off. End up slipping that on there. Then that part of the installation is completed. The only thing we have left, other than reinstall the plastics and the seats, is the wiring. I don't include a switch or anything because there's so many different types of switches that everyone uses on these, and what position they want. If they want a push button switch, if they want a rocker switch, if they want a Polaris style rocker switch with the I guess piece sticking out of it. There's too many different kinds, so I don't include that. But all you need for this is a 10 amp fuse. The motor only goes to 3.4 amps, so you could probably get away with a 5, but the wiring is big enough to use a 10 amp fuse, so that's what I stick in them. Take for your wiring, make sure you put a fuse in there, and then follow your basic wiring diagram for the rocker switch fuse assembly to the 2 wires on the blower motor. So once you have that wired up, you've tested it, everything's good, then you're going to reinstall all your plastics. Remember this little rubber hose clamp from earlier that was sitting this way? We flipped it around 180 degrees, slide that back on the tube with this on the right side, because remember, you have the driver's or the passenger side kick panel already installed. You can't get back to these to tighten them. So you want to flip it around. The driver's side is still off. You slip that down over the thing, tighten up the inside one that goes to that. Once everything up here is complete, the wiring, the hoses, everything's tip top, then you're going to take your snorkel, slip it down inside of this, go inside on the driver's side, tighten this last clamp down, make sure everything's good and tight. The snorkel pipe's a little bit hard to get out. It's pretty easy to get in. There's a little lip. I don't think you're going to hurt anything. Just keep working around until it pops out. When you go back in, you got to get a little shove to get past the lip. And then it kind of guides itself right down in here. and you'll be able to see from the sides and the front or from the driver's side that it's seated. You can push on it pretty good. Once that is installed, you can go back with the felt liner piece that fits up here, install your fenders, put your scoop on there, your antenna if yours is equipped with it, over here, the ground strap, all that. Put your front hood piece with the camera here back on, pop it in, with the one screw, and you're good to go. So you have your heater installed, it's all wired up, your plastics are back on. Go out and enjoy your buggy in the winter. If you want, you can put, the windshield on. Anything you do to enclose it is going to make it even that much hotter inside. Windshield, back window, there's plenty of companies out there that make different enclosures for them. If you want to seal up around the doors, I've ridden in my X3 and in this machine when it was in the 30s with no side windows, and it's pretty comfortable. No gloves or anything. Just put a light jacket on and go on a ride. All our friends end up coming over to our buggies and leaning in the windows to warm up because it's so much nicer in there. But go to our website at wickedpeckeroffroad.com to purchase. We're going to be running a special on the Pro R heater kit all through this winter. It only comes with the upgraded blower motor, like we use in the Can-Ams. The Can-Am has two different blower motors. One's 140 CFM. Then we have the 180 CFM blower motor. Over 95% of the heaters we've sold have gone with the upgraded blower motor. So on the Pro R, we're only doing the upgraded motor. There's slight differences in the parts because the lower CFM motor is slightly bigger, about an eighth of an inch bigger around. So it's just more inventory to go with, which you're going to want probably the 180 CFM blower motor anyway. It's going to blow out a lot of air, especially since this one only has 2 vents versus 4 in the Can-Am. There's just no room in the Polaris, especially this one has a subwoofer and speakers installed. There's no room to get a hose through there to go with a dash vent, like there is on the X3. And on the Honda Talon heater kit, you can take the dash vents, aim them upward, and it's just the right angle where it'll actually blow on the windshield to defrost it. But in the Pro R, you're not going to get that. You'll have to open up your windshield a little bit to get that air through, or get it wiped down or something. But anyway, enjoy it. Come back to wickedpeckeroffroad.com for all your heater needs and all your other parts we have online. Fuel can mounts for the Milwaukee Pack Out. Like us on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. We're on all the platforms. Thank you for watching.